Crucible. Today we have our guest speaker, Mr. Pranav Patel. Mr. Pranav Patel is the CEO of Chanakya Anvikshiki Private Limited, Director at the Chanakya Institute of Public Leadership, and a PhD research scholar at Wellinger Institute of Management Development and Research University of Mumbai, an expert in leadership training and mentoring who has been involved in training leaders and aspirants from various fields, including corporate, politics, and public services. He is a visiting faculty at the College of Defense Management, University of Mumbai, Indian Institute of Public Leadership, MIT School of Government, Met Institute of Management, and Ramchandran International Institute of Management, Pune. Mr. Patel has done extensive research on Kautilya's Arthashastra in a 6-month residential major research program at University of Mumbai. He has done his master's in leadership from Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Sciences, University of Mumbai, and also his postgraduate in business from Massey University, New Zealand. He's a certified financial planner and a candidate for Level 2 Chartered Financial Analyst, USA, with an experience of 8 years in the banking industry, where he has worked in the capacity of Associate Vice President in banks like HSBC and Standard Chartered. Mr. Patel is a certified independent corporate director and has recently finished his masterclass for directors program by the Institute of Directors. He has received an Excellence Award along with an international fellowship in election campaign management from the University of Akron for the 2016 US presidential election. He has done a certificate course in socio-political leadership known as Netritva Sadhana from Rambhau Malgi Prabodhini, Mumbai, and headed the voter-based analysis and campaign scheduling team for Mr. Gopal Shetty, Member of Parliament, North Mumbai constituency for the 2014 general elections. He represented India and presented a paper on Chanakya's model of good governance, Yoga Shemam, at first ever International Academic Conference on Yoga in New York, USA, organized by the Consulate General of India in USA. He was part of the organizing team for the Yoga Festival 2016 Academic Conclave, Chandigarh, where 54 PhD doctors presented their paper on yoga, including well-known personalities like Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Maharaj, Baba Ramdev, Acharya Balkrishna, and Dr. H.R. Nagendra. He also presented a paper on Kautilya Arthashastra and the institution of marriage at the research conference organized by the Indian Council for Philosophical Research. With this introduction, I now hand over the platform to Professor Abhijit Chaudhary.
Thank you very much, Madhuri. That was a splendid introduction for a person, very young person with a very ancient head being carried by him all the time. I have known Pranav for a long time. Okay, and over the years, I grew fond of him. And then the more I saw him, the more I knew that I'm fortunate to have known a person multifaceted the way he is. And it's no wonder that he is researching on Chanakya. I asked him a question that is Chanakya a person or is he a system? That's the expanse of Chanakya and his brilliance. And for Pranav, of course, my curtain raising question is going to be what drew you towards Chanakya, who actually defined strength of the treasury is the foundation of a powerful and successful nation. And how relevant it is, more so now that the Ukrainian ambassador is now invoking Chanakya, requesting India for help in arbitration. Over to you, Pranav.
So thank you, ma'am, for that extensive, detailed introduction of mine. I mean, next time I share my profile, I'm going to cut it down because this is too long and a lot of things not required. So thank you very much for that. And thank you, sir. It's a pleasure knowing you. In fact, I was just recollecting since when do I know him? And it's 2010. So it's 12 years since I know, sir. That time he was with JSW Steel. Earlier, it was its past and then JSW Steel. So I know that transition phase which he went through in those days. Giving a little background about myself and how do I know him? Because I was Associate Vice President HSBC Bank I was studying. I had done my CFP, CFA level 1. I was appearing for my level 2. And somewhere I felt that the models, the Western models, are not fitting into our Indian way of thinking. And we all do international marketing, international business, international marketing, and we say we should customize our product according to the local requirement, right? So I mean, for a washing company, if there's an ad which says the dirty clothes, washing machine, clean clothes, right? And if you go and sell the same ad in Dubai or in Middle East, I mean, your product won't sell because clean clothes, washing machine, and dirty clothes, right? So we have to customize according to the local environment. And that's what I felt, that Indian models, Indian way of thinking is very different from the way the Western models were. I'm not saying the Western models are wrong, but probably they were not relevant to the way we behave and we think. A small example of that I would give, let's say in terms of financing. Major amount of business financing in India comes through personal financing. I know my brother is doing a business, my friend is doing a business, my relative is doing a business. I will give money to that person. Maybe we'll mutually discuss the terms and conditions on that. And we do that because of the relationship that we have, right? That's because we belong to a family or a culture or a community and things like that. But if you go to the West, they will never trust you with their money. They'll say, first, put me a collateral, right? So the banking system probably worked in that manner, and it still works in that manner. Please give me a collateral, right? So the Anganwadis and the trust groups and all that have come in now, but then we always had that system. So I thought, this is not fitting in. And somebody told me that in Mumbai University, they are teaching Kautilya's Arthashastra, Chanakya's Arthashastra. And I thought Arthashastra means economics, at which literally translated, and I now understand the word Bhashantar, Bhasha Antar, which means Bhasha ka Antar, the distance which language creates. At times, the words which we use in our culture, our language, we are not able to relate or translate it into English. Or some words in English, we probably can't find Indian words for it. Reason being this Bhasha Antar, there is distance in the language there. So Arthashastra, coming back, I thought was economics. And I went and I joined the program. It was a 6 months residential program, stay inside University of Mumbai, study all the 6,000 sutras, word by word by word. But then I realized Arthashastra is way beyond. Economics is just one part. Arthashastra is all about running a kingdom. Arthashastra was written by Kautilya for the prince who is going to become the king. The prince who is going to run the kingdom, he was taught certain principles, he was taught certain topics so that he can govern the kingdom well. Economics is just one part. So if, for example, it's the government who is running the country, the Ministry of Finance is just one part of it. There's way beyond a lot of other departments, right? There's Home Ministry, there's Defense Ministry, there is External Affairs Ministry. So Kautilya Arthashastra covers all these topics in detail. So Arthashastra, not only that, but also others topics which it covers. So that's how it happened. And since 2014, and once I moved, I didn't look back after that, post 2014, and then the journey continued. So it just went on.
So that takes me straight
Ukraine thing. I'm sorry.
Square into the Arthashastra, running the kingdom. Chanakya's work, his advice to the king has been the king's cohorts, as they start any work, they ought to ask 3 questions. Why I'm doing this? What results might be? And will I succeed? Now, more than 2,000 years ago, these questions being asked are very similar to the strategic questions that we are taught today in our management discourses. They're very similar. So, Pranav, I want to have you speak about the relevance of Chanakya Niti in the digital transformation that the world is going through today. Will you please take a lead on that?
True. All right. Digital transformation is something which I always say that probably Chanakya never had digital world at that point. There was no internet or computer then. So it won't be technologically relevant in that particular manner. But Arthashastra being a book of governance, it has principles which is driven in that. Right? The principally driven economy, principle driven model, which it is there in that context. And if I have to put finance and digital economy, I would immediately take up crypto as a point which is there. In fact, today I just shared that video which someone had interviewed me on cryptocurrency and Chanakya's view on cryptocurrency in that particular manner. Digitalization is amazing. But at the same time, we have to understand every technology that comes in with its pros and cons. Something like a nuclear energy, which is there, right? We can generate power out of it, or probably have a bomb. Hopefully Russia doesn't do that, but in nuclear energy can be used in both. Similarly, digital world can also be used in both. So Chanakya used the reference of something called as governance, all right, and not government. In fact, so he said, don't own everything. The government does not need to own everything, but it needs to regulate. All right, so there needs to be a regulatory body which is formed by a committee which overlooks certain developments. So if there is digital economy, if there's digital world, if there's internet which is there needs to be some kind of regulatory things which needs to be looked in by each and every government in their particular national geographical region, because it's important that it's regulated. The government doesn't need to own any of those, but the government needs to regulate it for certain reasons, maybe national security or the kind of narrative which has been going on to people, or from a different perspective. I mean, I might not go into those details of national security, but then there are different things which are there. So that regulatory body needs to be there, and there has to be regulations which needs to be put in. Today, digital world is something we say freedom. We want to just freely do whatever we want to do. Chanakya says this is nothing like freedom in that particular context. In fact, just take up another example of modern day things. Today, we have a culture of startups. Everyone wants to be into business. And most of the people ask, "Kyun business karna hai?" They'll say, "I don't like my boss. I don't like someone on my head. I'd want to be someone whom I don't have to report to. Marzi ka Raja." It's never possible. It's never, ever, ever possible. In fact, Chanakya said the king is also supposed to be having a reporting structure. So the Rajaguru who is there, the Rajaguru to whom the king is also supposed to report into. Right? In the similar manner, if you're getting into a business, you need to have mentors whom you need to be responsibly there to go and say that this is what I have done. And if you're having financial things, if your bank is coming and you're borrowing loan from somewhere or getting an investor, trust me, you are nowhere running away from a boss. In fact, you're getting someone more evil on your head who is going to ask you 10,000 things about what you're doing, why you're doing, how you're doing. So the concept of freedom in terms of meri marzi jo karu wo karu, it doesn't exist. We all are responsible to someone or other in every facet of life. So it's important to think about that in that context.
It's interesting. Very well stated, Pranav. So what you're saying is that it's a control which is what builds success stories, and there's an ambience that's created. Now let's quickly take a look at the NFT. The non-fungible token. And the whole world is talking about NFT, and then some vested interest has actually diverted the attention of that to digital arts. Okay, I think the significance of NFT is far, far beyond digital art. I think anything and everything that we are doing, the control that you're talking about, that having the freedom yet being within the structure that you have to operate within, is what the call is in terms of digital transformation. Everyone who's going through with it will know about that. So this fungibility from the leadership perspective, how does one look at it?
All right. So to understand NFT from, I would not say Chanakya point of view, but any kind of governance point of view, if I have to put it, non-fungible tokens, if you go into the technology backward understanding it, it's again blockchain, right? It's something where it is an encrypted thing which is traveling from one place to another without anyone intervening it, and you know where the source is from. So your cryptocurrencies, your NFT comes back to the same technology of blockchain in that particular context. Now, when I spoke about regulation, it goes in the same manner. So, for example, we have coins today, starting from your Bitcoins to Ethereum and Solana and Doge coins. I mean, these are the ones which are the most known ones. Apart from that, you can go to Cebu and a lot many more. All of them have white papers which are coming out. And if you want to really understand the currency and the coins which we are talking of, the white papers are very important. NFT is the next thing, because when we say the meta world which is going to come in, it's going to be the whole digital world, right? So anything and everything we look on the screen, right, it's going to be unique. And all that unique thing which you look on the screen has to be owned by someone. right? So the whole piracy thing which we go into, you download a video from YouTube and you upload it by yourself. YouTube now finds out that, you know, oh, this is somewhere there is a piracy issue, or probably someone has copyrights to this particular video. The NFT would cut that down, because the non-fungibility would say that a picture which is there, an art which is there, probably a digital art, I would not say picture, but a digital art which is created, remains unique with the owner out there, right? However, right, what if someone steals it, or what if something goes wrong in the whole technology? Whom do we go and put in as the judge or the jurisdiction, which we call it, right? My major disconnect with cryptos also in that context is, someone is saying there is a coin called as Bitcoin, there are certain number of coins which are mined till date, no more coins are going to be mined, and it's all on supply and demand, right? So the more the demand, the higher the price, and the obnoxiously high price. You know, if people have invested in the last 5 years, obnoxiously high return, which is it. As students of management and business, I would say you all go and search on internet something called as tulip maniac. Right? If you all have studied what tulip maniac, and if you're from a financial background, you'll know what a tulip maniac is. Supply and demand can't be a way of valuation always. It has to do value addition, right? What value addition is this currency doing is a question mark at times. Though we are talking of even now staging the coins and getting interest on it, and someone can even loan out coins, we're talking of a complete parallel economy, which is not governed by anyone, but just someone saying that, you know, there are limited coins. We don't know who the owners is, who has manufactured it, who has done it, some ghost somewhere. So if I have to go and question, if some coin suddenly disappears, whom do I go and question? Is there a court of law which I can go to? No, right? So that's where my disconnect comes in with the whole digital currency thing, that there has to be something which is backed up. If I have a 100 rupee note or $100 bill with me, right? The note says as I promise to pay a value of ₹100 on this, backed by the government of India, RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So tomorrow, if I go with that note to the Reserve Bank of India, they're supposed to give me metals or coins, silver, equivalent to that much amount of rupees. So there's someone who is backing it up, right? And when Chanakya says a state, right, or a country in today's reference, a note or a currency for that matter, the legal tender, which we call, initially had gold reserves. Probably Nixon removed it and we moved out of the gold standards post that. Today, everything is backed by the country's sovereignty. If valuation of Indian rupee is 75 rupees against dollar, right, then I'm saying that 75 rupees comes in everything which is India backed by it, so which means all the Indian, the total Indian land, the rivers, the mines, the forest in India, all the reserves that we have, all the resources that we have, all that is backed by that currency. So the responsibility of the valuation of the currency comes in from that kind of, obviously supply and demand does play in a part as a role, but only supply and demand can't be a way of valuation. So NFT also still not traded. I mean, NFT is still available in terms of you can just go and bid for it and things like that. The bidding platforms available will be a great thing. Like I can have a digital avatar of mine, which will be there on Metaverse, probably one day, which will come in. We are talking of a world where, an imaginary world where I'm not physically there. It's my digital avatar, which is interacting with everyone and anyone. Where am I going? And I can have a valuation for that based upon how much each part is of a demand. So if I'm Iron Man and I have a mask like that, which is digitally created, which is amazing and everyone likes it, I'm going to get valuation for that. Still supply and demand, we need more regulations to it. That's what I would add.
I think a little add-on to this is in terms of operations, in terms of business, NFTs are going to be the tracking mechanism by which you're going to be ensuring that anything and everything that's been done has actually been encrypted in a way that you can't reverse it by yourself. If you have to do it, then it's a question of traversing the whole the entire step to be taken back. So you mentioned startup, and you mentioned that this the excitement of being one's own boss. Now, I think what is happening now is that people are wanting to take more accountability in terms of their own actions. So when you talk about a startup, the way we look at startup, I have a few young groups that I'm talking to. I understand the urgency in them saying that, well, we are able to create and manage a business by ourselves, and we want to do it. So when I look back and I look at pre-COVID and post-COVID, I think there's a major change that has come. And in this, we are talking about elevating the personal agenda from doing things to controlling things. Become your own master. Okay, from to do to be. You know, that's something that we spoke about in the past. When I read about Chanakya, everywhere I can see that this autonomy in the individual action is what is prompted by him all the time. Please tell us a little about how you see the relevance of that in today's context from management point of view.
Sure, absolutely. So we're talking two things out here. We're talking of being independent in the way which I want to do everything, being my own boss, which I would relate and make you understand against, if I say, responsibility. So there is a term called liberty, right? Everyone has a liberty to live. We have the Statue of Liberty in New York. So in America talks about liberty. I will do what I want to. I have the liberty of doing what I want. So if I'm driving a car, all right, should I wear a seat belt or not? Is it my liberty or not? My liberty. I don't want to wear a seat belt, right? Then why should it be put by government as a law, right? So the thin line is we need to understand that liberty means you can do whatever you want to do, but you should not harm others in your behavior. So if I'm not wearing a seatbelt, or if I'm driving rashly and I hit someone on the road, right, it's that I'm causing harm to someone else in my behavior, right? So when it comes to regulation, you can be your own boss, do whatever you want to, but there has to be regulations, because a lot of people who want to be their own boss might go on the wrong track and harm others. So the regulations are required to look at something what Chanakya call is Rita. And Rita, if I have to translate it, I would say it's something like cosmic balance. Every society or nature by itself has a cosmic balance. Everything needs to function in certain things. Though this balance always goes ups and down, you know, we pollute, we harm the nature, and then nature gives it back to us, right? Probably you get a tsunami or an earthquake or a cyclone coming, and nature says, you know, don't try to mess around. I will rebalance myself. Rebalance to what? To that particular cosmic balance which is required. Right? So that cosmic balance has to be maintained. In this thing of what we're talking of being my own boss and doing what I want to, more than Chanakya has, in fact, given that liberty to do what you want to, but also keep that regulation. So whenever required, the government or the state has a right to intervene. So if you look at the economic model of what Arthashastra prescribes is Shreshti and Shreni. So it talks of businessmen. In fact, the king should not own anything. The state should not own anything. Everything, all businesses should be done by businessmen, and businesses should be promoted to grow the economy. But the government has the right and has the power of regulation where they can intervene whenever there is a need. So if there's something going out of balance, the regulator would come in and bring it back to what it is supposed to be. So that is where that, yes, you can be whatever you want to, but you need to be regulated so that you don't harm others. That's what I would say would be the understanding there.
Beautiful. I think you know, the more we talk about the kind of loss of control that we keep hearing about SEBI and other regulatory authorities like that, the more you get drawn into this kind of a philosophy. And I think that's what makes the Chanakya Niti so much more powerfully placed today to understand and use it in our day-to-day life. You know, the other thing that's happening today is, unfortunately, it's becoming very fashionable to talk about the old masters. I think a time has come today that we must understand what the old masters meant, what they said, and imbibe that, you know, internalize some of the teachings, and then, you know, follow it as far as we can. And believe me, the layer that you are in, you are actually the biggest influencer in any organization. If you want to do something, if you want to implement something that's going to be useful, you are able to do it, because you are that connect between the front line and the corner office. I think there's a huge opportunity that is there in front of you. And, you know, we spoke about this for quite some time, though Pranav is with you today, he's speaking about it. I have been sharing my thoughts with him that how do we create knowledge to be able to manage ourselves? You know, that's what the purpose of from to do to be is, that be responsible for ourselves and be good to the society, the cosmic balance that he mentioned. And we all understand it pretty well, except that we didn't really have the language, we didn't really have the grammar to explain ourselves. Today, after we have introduced this new concept and new energy in you by citing Chanakya, I think you should take a lot of interest by yourself and read up, and then see whether you can bring in something more meaningful going forward for yourself, your organization, the society. That takes me to the next layer, where we talk about ESG. And it's something that we are talking about triple bottom line. We have talked about people, profit, planet. Okay, all these things are very buzzwords today. Now, I'm sure there is some insight in Chanakya Niti which drives you straight into the kernel of ESG. I invite Pranav to explain that to us so that we can have a little takeaway from that.
Sure. ESG is the most discussed topic these days, because sustainability, and because I'm part of the Institute of Directors, where I got qualified as an independent director also. And most of the boards today are focusing on ESG, because it's slowly going to come into as a regulatory requirement also. It is already there. The environmental ministry is creating pain for a lot of industries out there. I would not say pain, but let's understand it's very important, because India in particular, as a growing economy, okay, we are a growing economy, we are going to inflate, we are going to pollute. We are saying even in the Paris Accord that, India will pollute because we are a growing economy. We need to understand that the cosmic balance, which I said, needs to be maintained. Now, how Chanakya puts it? Chanakya puts it with a sutra out there, where he says, Praja sukhe sukham raja, praja nam cha hite hitam. Right? Natna priya hitam raja, tatha nam tu priyam hitam. Now, what is important out here, what he's saying is, in the benefit of the people lies the benefit of the king. Right? In the happiness of the, first he says, in the happiness of the people lies the happiness of the king. Praja sukhe sukham raja. And then he says, Praja nam tu hite hitam. Right? So in the benefit of the people. Now understand these two words, right? Sukha and hita. Sukha is happiness. Hita means benefit. Right? And every time we talk of things like ESG or sustainability or the cosmic balance, which I'm talking of, the hita of people needs to be first taken care of, is what Chanakya says. Right? Something might not be sukhakari. So some things which we do to the people, right, might not be giving them happiness, but it should be hitakari. It should be beneficial to them. Right? So lockdown was not sukhakari for anyone of us, right? No one was happy with the lockdown. But was it hitakari? Was it in our benefit? Yes, it was. Right? Going to a doctor when I'm not well and getting myself pricked with an injection, right, is not going to be sukhakari for me at all. It's pain, but it's hitakari. It's in my benefit. So as a leader, as a person who's leading a company, as a person who's responsible, and I would even put it to a level that as a responsible citizen, I should look at what is in the benefit of everyone else. And ESG, when we talk of, and now I would probably be even extending ESG to all the projects which we are doing in terms of corporate social responsibilities also, because they are saying, let's see if we can compensate using our corporate social responsibilities fund towards doing the ESG which we require. So, I mean, you can go to Gujarat, and a lot of companies are doing that, where the factory is, they're polluting somewhere, and then they use their corporate social responsibility funds to basically do something in terms of education for the village and things like that. I would say, guys, that's not the way. We can't just put it in terms of numbers. Let's understand that we exist as a society, and when Chanakya puts in that societal reference should always be taken into consideration. Leadership, and when people are running, the leadership comes from the word leader, the person who leads the ship. Right? The captain of the ship is the leader. Right? The leader of the ship. Now, the captain of a ship needs to be very careful in terms of the direction he's taking. He uses a compass. Right? The captain uses a compass which gives him direction. Now, say, for example, the ship is going in one direction and it's maybe going 2 degrees towards the right from where it is supposed to go. Right? 2 degrees hai, kya fark padta hai? But as a leader of the ship, the captain, if he is okay with that 2 degrees, imagine 100 nautical miles the ship has traveled, it probably reaches some different country altogether. Right? So every micro thing that the leader thinks is going to have a macro impact on the society. or on the country or the company or whatever you talk it from that point of view. Right? So that micro thinking, which is affecting the society or the whole cosmology, as I put cosmology because we talk of space research and space sciences there. So the whole cosmology comes into picture. If Elon Musk says my rocket is gone there and probably it got lost somewhere and today it is going to hit the Chandrayaan and things like that, and I'm not responsible, you are responsible for it. If you're causing harm to the whole cosmology somewhere, it is you who are responsible for it, which needs to be understood by the leader. So from the ESG point of view, understanding that the impact is not only me or my company or my people, it's the whole society altogether that the leader should understand. Eventually, it will come back to everyone somewhere or the other.
Wonderful. I think, I have a few more issues to go with, and it's just a midterm call kind of a thing. I hope you people are preparing yourself with your questions, because this is one opportunity I want you to take, because it's very unusual that you are actually going to have a management master come and speak to you about ancient management sutras. So please have your questions ready. I would really, really like to have, and I have requested Pranav, and he has agreed. I mean, he sacrificed his Sunday evening to be with us. So please get your questions ready. I would love to have them asked and answers had from him. So going from ESG now, obviously it's very clearly you are saying that the leader of the ship is going to be guided by the navigational ability, and of course to be absolutely on bank. Like I keep talking about Mangalayan. I said that if there's a collective success that one has to think about, I always remember that Mangalayan, the day it sort of accomplished the mission, I was told that even that the slightest of the mistake anywhere would have actually taken that Mangalayan someplace, and it would not have been the same. And so much of structural management that goes into it, all the parallel computing, all the navigational mathematics that is used in that, all the cosmological knowledge that's been used in it. So it's amazing. But coming from there and talking about leadership, personally, you are one who has traversed the industry, business, corporate into more like a monk-like calmness that all of us see in you. Give us one glaring example of your success by following a Chanakya niti.
I first of all, no monk-like life. The hair is gone. It's not because of the Chanakya thing. Probably Chanakya had a ponytail. I just don't have any hair there itself. So there's nothing to do with monk in that particular. It's the water of Mumbai. And again, the pollution is responsible for that. So it's the chlorine. Going back to Chanakya and the way it's helped me, I mean, I don't have a particular example to put across, but then for me, Chanakya became a way of thinking because when I started relating to what's happening around, when I started interacting with people, when we started interpreting those sutras, we felt that it's so normal, and then by studying Arthashastra, I felt this is all what we already know, sab pata hi hai hum logo ko. It's just that we are not aware about that knowledge. It's the wisdom which we talk in our daily language, in our daily talks. Our mothers have been talking about it to us when we were brought up. Our families, our grandparents have told us a lot of stories about Panchatantra and things like that. But then this is all where the Indian wisdom came in from. And this is all we as India have grown up in. So for me, Chanakya happened in a manner where I thought, it's normal way of thinking. Kuch zyada isme rocket science nahi hai. It's just that we get aware about what we are, rather than trying to copy someone else. And trying to change ourselves. So I would say the only success which Chanakya brought in was I at least started thinking and believing in what I am and what we are, and accepting in terms of the way we are also. This is the way we are and we behave. Everyone has a way. Every society has a way in which they behave, and we are this what we are. So let's first accept it. Let's not try to change ourselves from what we are. It is not possible. An individual can try to change, but the society has its own way of behavior. So let's accept it and then try to find ourselves in that some way. So I would say Chanakya happened, and then I probably at least got to know myself more. That was an achievement in that.
So living in the now is what you're talking about. So my parting question for you, the leadership ambition of everyone over here which are the, if I have to ask you for 3 leadership qualities that you would like to leave them with for thought, what are those going to be?
Wow, three thoughts which Chanakya would have put in terms of the way behavior, or let's talk about thinking. You know, maybe I would just introduce a small thinking model. One of the sutras out there which Chanakya talks of. Chanakya talks of something called Anvikshiki. So when ma'am was trying to name our company, it is Chanakya Anvikshiki Private Limited. And a lot of people say, yeah, Anvikshiki kya hai? A lot of people are not able to even pronounce it in that particular manner. It's an ancient word. In fact, one of Draupadi's name was Anvikshiki also. So that's where it comes from. Now, what is Anvikshiki? Anvikshiki is a thinking model. And we say the strategic way of thinking is Anvikshiki. So as leaders, right, there are 3 things which you need to always consider when you're thinking. Right, and Indian philosophy is divided into 9 parts. There are 9 Indian philosophies. I'm not going into those. This is not a philosophy class, but Anvikshiki comprises of 3 of them, and these 3 are Sankhya, Yoga, and Lokayata. Right. So, what is Sankhya, Yoga, and Lokayata? Let's understand that in this context. So, Sankhya is Sankhya philosophy, which was given by Kapila Muni in that context. But for our understanding at our level, it is more of Sankhya. So, I would say as leaders, think everything in terms of numbers, quantify everything you do. So for example, if from Mumbai, if I have to go from here to say Rome, right? So if I have to go, then what are the numbers that come in, right? Number 1, time, how much time it is going to take. Number 2, it will say how much cost it is going to take, right? What is the distance I'm going to travel? How much luggage I'm going to take? How many kgs of weight I'm going to be available? You know, when am I going to travel? So all these are numbers which we have to put in context. Try thinking everything in terms of Sankhya first, in terms of quantifying everything and anything they're doing. Trust me, push yourself a little bit. Whatever you are doing, you will be able to quantify it in terms of numbers. And leaders should think numbers. I mean, you guys had a class on data analytics, and can't have a better day to talk about this and that. So everything needs to be quantified, right? As leaders, it is very important. So if you say India as a market, okay, how many people, what is the demographics, how many states, how many cities, how many business centers out there, everything goes in terms of numbers. So as leaders, think number 1 in terms of numbers. Number 2, yoga. Yoga means what? Yoga. Yeah, yoga, Baba and Ramdev, everyone will think yoga is what I will stretch my hands and stretch my legs, and am I able to touch my toes or not? No, that is not yoga. That is just one part of yoga. So if you read Patanjali Yoga Sutras, out of 120 sutras out there, it's only, I think 3 or 4 which refers to the physical part of yoga, right? Yoga means the meeting. Yoga means coming together. So if you know what is pranayam, I'm not sure if all of you would have practiced it, but if you know pranayam, it focuses on your breath, right? And your breath is where probably, and remember, your breath should be the most dear thing to you, because that is something which stays with you from the time you're born till the time you're dead. Rest all will come and go in life. Girlfriends, boyfriends, people, money, assets, everything will come and go. But your breath is the only thing which will remain from the moment you're born till the moment you're dead. So the breath, focus on that breath is what pranayam says to us. And yoga means having something called as equanimity. Right? When I said cosmic balance, a human also has something called equanimity. And yoga focuses on equanimity of the mind. Right? And a balanced and a calm mind is most important from the yoga point of view. So as leaders, it is very important that you have a very calm, balanced mind. How do I mention calm and balanced mind is, in fact, Sir just mentioned being in the present. There are 2 kinds of mental issues people have. Right? When we're talking of mental health as one of the biggest upcoming industry today, and why mental health? Because of all the stress which everyone is facing, probably by staying too much at home, or a lot of the kind of work-life balance we have. Now, what are these 2 mental issues with evidence? Either it is depression or it is anxiety. Right? What is depression? Depression is when I'm living in the past. हमारी लाइफ में ऐसा था, राजा रजवाड़े थे, such a nice time, why did he do this to me, why did she do this to me, why did that happen to me, I was a nice person, why was I treated like that? You're living in the past, something that has happened, and you're repenting, or you're connected with that. So that's depression. It brings you down low at times because you're always in the past. What's anxiety? Anxiety is something where you're in the future. Kya hoga? Kaise hoga? Where will I go? How will I happen? What if this happens? What if that happens? Or what if tomorrow Russia will put a nuclear bomb on Ukraine? What will happen if China goes and attacks Taiwan? And what if China enters into India? Then what will we do? Anxiety. We are in the future. We are just thinking of the future, which is not happening. What does yoga say? Be in the present. So a mental health will not happen if you are in present. So be where you are. Do what you are doing at that point of time. Right? Otherwise, what happens to a lot of us is we are doing something, our mind is somewhere else. Right? So yoga tells us be where you are and have that equanimous, balanced mind. So Sankhya, yoga, and third thing is Lokayata. As leaders, it is very important that you focus on material gains. Right? Chanakya was not a monk or a sadhu or anything. In fact, he was a person in the whole of Arthashastra has not even for once mentioned the word God or spirit or spirituality anywhere. He was a proper materialistic person in that particular manner. Right? As leader, it is important that you achieve material gains. Right? We created goodwill in the society. No, as leaders, it is not required. You know, a king cannot say that "Jo hoga wo Bhagwan jane, abhi main kuch nahi kar sakta," or even any minister or a leader for that matter. You know, as leaders, you have to achieve material gains. And someone say, "Kaisi materialistic batein karta hai?" Yes, as leaders, you have to. Others are allowed, but leaders are not allowed. So 3 things: quantifying things, having calm, composed mind, and focusing on material gains is most important for leaders. So these 3 things I would say take away for leaders.
Excellent. So you have 3 sutras with you now: Sankhya, Yoga, and Lokayata. I hope my foreign friends will find a meaning of it. If you need any explanation, do feel free to write to me. I will send you something that you can read and you can understand. The very important leading suggestions and advice that has come to you today through Mr. Patel. Of course, going back into the philosophy of Chanakya, I think that makes it a perfect ending of my interaction with you, Pranav. And now I wish you all the best. Please come in with your questions. And I would love to have each one of you have something to ask and get an answer to. I'll leave it over to you now.
Sir, I have a question. I'm from online.
Yes.
Sir, very interesting the last 3 things that you said: Sankhya, Yoga, and Lokayata. How would you categorize Ratan Tata, and how would you categorize, today's servant leadership is being, very aggressively, or people are promoting servant leadership. So how do you connect the 2?
An excellent question. Servant leadership, I mean, you should read Good to Great and Build to Last. Two books I would suggest to understand the level 5 leadership. So these are 2 books which I would say you should read: Good to Great and Build to Last. Jim Collins is a writer, and lovely books if you want to really understand. It's not servant leadership, it is leadership without me, without the I. That is what is more important. In fact, Chanakya in Arthashastra says, who is the king? Okay. So, and the answer is the king is a Vetan Bhogi Sevak of the Praja. The king is a salaried employee of the people, right? And his responsibility is in the benefit of the people. He is just an employee taking care of people's wealth. He's taking care of people's well-being, and he's paid salary for it. So if Prime Minister Modi sometimes says that मैं प्रधान सेवक हूँ, probably he's picked up that line from there where he's saying that that servant leadership thing comes in from there. The second question, or the first question which you had, I'm sorry, ma'am, if you can just give me a hint on what was that? Ratan Tata, yes, Ratan Tata, yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, if I have to put Arthashastra, what is Chanakya's Arthashastra? It focuses on 2 things together. Right? One thing it focuses is on economics, definitely. And second thing, it focuses upon dharma. Right? And when I say dharma, doesn't mean religion. Please don't put into this when the Abrahamic way of looking at dharma as religion. Okay, aapka kya religion hai? When I say dharma, it means the rightest way of doing things. Right? And Arthashastra, for that matter, I say it's dharmanomics. Right? Material gain, material benefit in the rightest way. Right? It is very important, and a lot of people can say, "Aisa thodi hota hai, धंधे में तो सब करना पड़ता है." You know, that's the kind of responses I get at times. Trust me, if you go the rightest way, do the right things. I mean, if I have to put it in terms of just a personal attitude, manassanyam, vachasanyam, karmanyam duratmanam, manasyekam, vachasyekam, karmanyekam, mahatmanam. So what Chanakya says is, the person who says something and does something is a duratma, right? So if you say something and do something different, you are a duratma, you are a very evil person, right? And if you, and manasyekam, vachasyekam. So basically, whatever you say and you do. So if you're walking the talk in terms of what you are saying, then you become a mahatma, right? So as leaders, and when it comes to Ratan Tata in that manner, I would say someone who walks the talk. Right? And that is why the word which we attach to Tata's always is trust.
Yeah.
Right? Today, if Tata comes out with an IPO, comes out with any kind of debenture, do we even think second time that I want to give money to them? No, right? That's dharmic way will create that trust. Once you have created that trust, the transaction becomes very flawless. But if there's no trust, I'll say collateral doge kya? Right? So that trust and the dharmic way, it's difficult. I would not say it's not, it's easy. You know? Initially, it's difficult. But then you come out with a permanent solution to it where you have people, the trust factor is sitting. And your behavior would eventually help you grow in that particular manner. So dharmanomics is what I would say Arthashastra is all about.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Lovely interaction. Okay, the next one.
Hi, Pranav. Good evening.
Good evening.
So 2 questions on Chanakya, because I think Sir has covered a lot of things about the business and other stuff management. I'm just curious to know, because I read Chanakya a long time back, and it always fascinated me that time, but after that, I think everything else took the priority. So it went on the backseat. So my question is, Chanakya is always radical. So I always thought his views as a political analyst versus economist is always radical. So how do you actually kind of, use them in your day-to-day management life? That's the first question. And second question, basically, why did anyone choose Chanakya? Because his nemesis or contemporaries were equally good people. So you have Satvahans, you have Amatya Rakshas, you have Ashoka, all those things. So why people should choose Chanakya as their guru, let's say?
Sure. First of all, Chanakya being radical, I would say Chanakya was not a radical. Chanakya was a realist. And when I use the word realist, he was not a pessimist. He was not an optimist, right? He was a realist. In fact, when Arthashastra starts, he starts with a salutation, right? So when we write something or when we do something auspicious, we always do salutations, right? I mean, in the Indian culture, we worship Lord Ganesha, Vignaharta, Dundu. Or if you're writing something, you'll probably write something as a sign on top and make it auspicious in the manner. So when Arthashastra Chanakya writes, he says, Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Bhyam, right? Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Bhyam. Now, what is the sutra? Let me decode it. Om Namah, basically, Om is auspicious, Namah is Namaskaram, Shukra. Shukra is who? Anyone? Shukra? Shukracharya? Who is Shukracharya? Anyone? The guru of the devils, the Danavas, yeah? The guru of the devils. And then Bruhaspati Bhyam. Obviously, Bruhaspati is the guru of the gods or the Devatas in that manner. Now, he does Namaskaram to guru of the devils and the guru of the angels. So angels and demons both are here, right? Why does he do that? And in fact, interesting thing is, he does Namaskaram to the guru of Danavas first. Pehle usko namaskar kar do, So now how I put it in that, in my understanding of that context, look at the negatives first. Ye kaisi baat kar raha hai? Ronda, the secret pada nahi hai. You have to monitor, look at positivities only, right? No, Chanakya says, no, look at the negatives first. Think of what can go wrong and prepare yourself for the worst. And that is what we call in our modern day management term as risk management, right? So look at the negatives first, see what can go wrong, and then Bruhaspati Bhyam. So then hope for the best to happen. So prepare yourself for the worst and hope for the best to happen. So that would make sure that you achieve what you have to achieve. So started off from the 3 points, right? So will I achieve what I have to achieve? So first, Look at those negatives, see what can go wrong, think of it, think 100 things that can go wrong. Do a Monte Carlo simulation on kya galat ho sakta hai in that particular manner. Come up with all the problems, come up with a solution there, that if something goes wrong, here it is. If something goes wrong, there's an insurance, right? The whole insurance industry works on this principle. And then hope for the best to happen. So he was radical. I would say he was not radical. He was realist in that particular manner as one point. Second thing, why Chanakya? No, Chanakya himself is not me. Everyone else. So in Arthashastra, Chanakya refers to the Purvacharyas. All right. So Arthashastra was not the first Arthashastra written by Chanakya. There were a lot of other Arthashastras written as well. So there's Manu, there is Brihaspati himself, there's Ushanas. There are a lot of Purvacharyas which Chanakya quotes in Arthashastra. So he says, Manu says this, Ushana says this, Brihaspati says this, Shukracharya says this, and I, Chanakya, say this. Right? So this is like a research thesis which you're writing. Right? Everything is reference to someone says this, someone says this, someone says this, and then I, out of all this, conclude that something like this. So it is not search, it is research. We are searching something again. So not Chanakya, and in fact, this gives us the leeway. Chanakya gives us the freedom to interpret things according to our way, according to in reference to our time also. But then, maine bol diya, not like that. Someone who has researched, a person becomes a PhD when he has researched, he studied a subject, and then he says something like this. That's when someone asserts something, not says something. The difference between the word assert and say is someone who has studied it, someone who has referenced it, and then he's saying, then the person asserts it. So not Chanakya. Chanakya is definitely allowing us to study everyone. Everyone should be studied. In fact, I did my master's in leadership from University of Mumbai. The first year focuses on Indian leadership models. So Chanakya definitely being one of the most important one. We also study leadership models from Mahabharata. We also study leadership models from the Ramayana. There's something called Shukra Niti. There's something called Vidur Niti. There's Krishna Niti. There are different text which is there in our culture, which is there. So all that has been used. So not only Chanakya, study everyone, but for me, Chanakya became the focal point because my direction changed from there, and Arthashastra became the text which I kept probably studied 3-4 times myself. So it became the way of life for me.
Very much.
It's very, very plausible. Good, Shreyans. I think that was a very, very involved question coming from you. Going back to the wall, anybody remotely attending the class, any question? You should have. So
this is Ananda here. My question is, what is Chanakya's view on resolving conflicts, especially the ones which are very complex in nature?
Sure. Resolving conflicts. So Chanakya has given formulas to resolving conflicts, and probably, in fact, we started off, I missed out that point on Ukraine as on date, and what is India's stand on Ukraine. Chanakya gives 4 types of countries, right? First is Ari, as in enemy, who someone is my enemy. Mitra, as in someone who is my friend. So we have allies with friends, and we are enemies in terms of war opposite. Then he talks of someone who is Madhyama, as in small states, like say Bhutan, Nepal, these are all small states which is there. And then he talks of Udasina, the 4th one. Udasina means someone who is large enough, but far away from me, who is not friend to me, who is not enemy to me, but but bada hai. The size is big. So India today, for that matter, in Ukraine's context, is becoming Udasin. Both of them are coming to us. Everyone is coming to India. Please, you are the one resolve the issue, right? Ukraine is asking for India's vote in the United Nations Security Council. Russia was happy that we abstained from it. America was not happy that we abstained from it. But then the point is, we are staying neutral, and when we abstain, we also mention as a country, we said we are abstaining from voting so that we can talk to both the sides. So we want to be the one. So we are Udasina from Chanakya's point of view, who can talk to both the sides and probably become the mediator in this case, which is a very good strategy to come. Coming to conflict resolution, Chanakya gives 4 upayas. Okay, and not 4. In fact, there are 7 if you study the whole Arthashastra, and it is very well known. It is called Sam, Dan, Dan, Bhed. Right? Sam, Dan, Dan, Bhed. Sam means what? First, if I have conflict with someone, if I'm fighting with someone, first Sam, baat kar lo, talk it out, speak it out, discuss it, sit across the table and discuss it. First way of doing it. Right? Second, Dan. If you have to give money, paisa vaisa deke khatam karna hai, khatam karo. Resolve it. Financial, at times you want to even take a little bit of financial loss, take it and give it. We sorted out Bangladesh border issues by giving away more land, right? But then we said, let's sort out these issues one for all and let's get the border right? So dana, right? Danda means fight or give punishment, all right? Or use the hard way out. Right? I mean, when I say hard way out, is physical way out. And danda dena, punishment comes in there. Even that doesn't work. Then he says bhed. The Britishers used bhed on us. How? Separated. India, Pakistan, do ab tum log andar ladte raho, hum maze kar rahe hain wahan baith ke aapko dekh ke. Right? So bhed, divide it. Put a bhed in them. Put a conflict in them, so they are divided and you are sorted in that. So these are 4 ways which you will understand if the Sutra which is there, it talks of these 4 things. If you study the whole Arthashastra, there are 3 more upayas which he gives. Right? Maya, Upeksha, and Indriya Jal. Okay? Maya means what? You create Maya Jal. You know, you create that kind of attraction towards something and make that person fall in for that. Right? So you create Maya. You know, you create that a thing where you guide someone and go into that particular direction. Right? Indriya Jal is creating Indriya Jal. Jal banaya usko. Tu aisa karega to fasega, waisa karega to fasega, aisa karega to fasega. So basically now you better do what I want you to do. Right? So that is Indriya Jal. And the last one is Upeksha. Upeksha means what? Doing nothing. See, is that a solution? Yes, that is a solution which Chanakya talks of. In fact, even Bhagavad Gita talks of this. Right? Not taking an action at times is also an action. At times when you don't take an action is also an action which you have taken. So not answering certain questions at times is good. Not taking action at times and letting things happen the way it is also good. So that is Upeksha. So 7 ways. First, Sam, Tan, Bhed, and then 3 more, Maya, Upeksha, Indriya Jal. So the 7 things which is called conflict resolution, 7 upayas, which we talk of in terms of Arthashastra, which is there.
How brilliantly put. I think, the Mayajal comes to my mind, India being the biggest of the markets. I think a lot of friendliness is coming out of that kind of an attraction, that we have to make a meaning out of this market, and therefore let's play fair with the Indian perspective. Wonderful, wonderful. Great question. Great interaction.
I have one more question, sir.
Shreyans, let one round pass. I'm sure this is exciting. For me, this is problem of plenty. And I love it. Go ahead. Yeah.
So, sir, you were talking about sustainability.
Pranav. No,
No, sorry. Okay. Pranav. So being into IT industry, tech industry, how do a business actually translate sustainability to make sure they achieve if that's the goal of the company? Like some examples wherein which you can practice being in a technology industry, how to be sustainable.
Though I'm not from a tech background, and I'm probably I'm the one who's always using the user interface, but probably not even that, because I'm not very tech person that ways. But then IT industry today is something which is an industry which is tangible yet intangible. Right? Intangibility part is way bigger because it's coming out to be as a benefit to the human race as a whole in that context. Sustainability would come in when you creating a solution for people to better their life, right? So every time we go to any kind of an what do we call it, the place where we something like a Shark Tank, if I'm going to, if someone's asking me, if you invest in a company like this, is it sustainable? If you're creating a solution for people's life to become better, right? Today, Zomato is not making profit. Amazon is nowhere making profit, nor is Ola, Uber is making profit. But we love those companies in terms of the valuations also we are giving it. Why? Because they are changing human life and making it better the way it should be, right? So sustainability for an IT kind of a thing, technology would come in if you're creating solutions which is making human life better, right? There are a lot of crooks around also, so we need to manage. Om Namah Shukra Bruhaspati Vyam. So sustainability also has to focus upon how to weed out this crooks who are coming. So there are a lot of phishing attacks that happen. I have a friend, Nikhil, he's a cybersecurity expert, and we talk of spying softwares and a phishing thing happening on things like that. Technology needs to probably find a solution to it. And I think somewhere blockchain is bringing in those answers, at least in terms of sustainability and security for that matter. So I don't know if I'm probably answered your question right.
No. Yeah, means I was just looking more from a standpoint that if we are in technology, so how to reduce your carbon footprints or something which will actually have an impact when you say that we are a business which is more like looking for a goal to achieve as a sustainable business.
All right. So you are talking more from the ESG point of view. If
Yes,
I'm
ESG.
talking of, yes, this is becoming a concern. Definitely going to be a big concern in terms of the waste which we are creating and the kind of emission which IT is doing in particular. But now if you go to any building, any corporate building, and if you go get a carbon emission audit done, you'll find the computers, the servers, the kind of emission, the heat which we are emitting is huge. Not only that, the kind of I would say the emission which is happening because of the server farms which are putting it and things like that. Now we're talking of putting the server farms deep down in the sea. You know, we don't want to waste energy in terms of electricity, in terms of putting them. It is a concern and it needs to be considered. We are not considering it as of now. It will become. In fact, there's another point which we need to also understand in the intangible world is something called as data junk. Right? Everyone is collecting data, right? Everyone is collecting. Someone says, "Oh, Amazon sab sunta hai." I said, "Please, आप phone लेके घूमते हो, you know, वो 24 घंटा आपको सुन रहा है, right?" So there's a lot of data junk which is going to get created, and how do we manage this data junk is going to be a big question for us, right? There's so much of data around, right? Data management is leave that. I'm talking of data in terms of where do you put all this, and it is going to be useless data which is going to get collected. Okay, everything and anything. There was a survey which said in the last year, right, the number of sensors which were produced is higher than the number of grains which were produced. The number of sensors which the world produced is more than the number of grains which were grown. Right? So this all is going to somewhere harm us. So we have to understand where we are going. So maybe I would say take a break and go live a naturopathy life and try and find a balance between ourselves and things like that. Another thing which is of a concern to me is the screen time which we all are facing. So IT and things are relating to us. Either I'm on my mobile phone, right, or I'm on my laptop, and if I go home, I have a 65-inch screen which is there, so I'm on that screen. And if I have to entertain myself, what will I do is I'll go to a bigger screen in the movie theater and look at another bigger screen out there, right? So the amount of screen time which we are doing and the Blu-rays which come out of that are also going to be harmful. There is research work happening in that direction, but we all need to very consciously start focusing on the quality of life which will be affected because of this also. So modern day diseases.
Maybe yoga is going to be from the equanimity point of view, you know, that equanimity, if it is passed on and if it is actually taken up in the right sense, I think everyone will then be empowered to decide how much is good for me and how much is, what is a need and what is a want. I think it's a need versus want debate. It'll keep coming back to us. Great question, I think, and what Pranav just mentioned, that you know, I was reading about Amazon in the next AWS. One of the experiments that's running right now is underwater data centers. That you actually
Microsoft has already done that, so they already have a server which is deep down the scene. It's like a huge capsule. So they're already doing it. So
lovely. This is great exchange happening. Yeah, Noel, you had something to ask, I think. Did you?
I think this was me. Maybe I had raised my hand. So
I wanted to ask.
Yeah, there's Prasad. Hi. So yeah, thanks a lot for sharing a lot of very insightful things. One question maybe that is pertinent to this age versus in the age where Chanakya was. So in your understanding, when you were going through the course and reading and so on, did you come across a place or a sutra or a view or a suggestion where you thought, this is probably less pertinent to the current situation? And it is not a limitation per se. It is just that I mean, so many centuries have passed, so it is unfair to also expect that all of the sutras will be absolutely valid to the T at this stage. It's just, I'm curious.
No, absolutely. There's a lot of things which is not relevant out there. But then, as I said, the principles are relevant. Now, Chanakya speaks of an army of elephant which eats non-veg and is made to drink alcohol. The elephant kabhi non-veg khata hai, aapne suna hai? Yes, Chanakya has made an army of elephants which eats non-veg and are made to drink alcohol. So in those days, the war was more physical on the ground, and animals, elephants were used as vehicles or something to fight with. So this mad drunk elephant is just left into the army's terrain, and then they go and run around and kill people. I don't know if that is physically possible today, right? But still, principally, can we think of something like this, where something which goes and just messes around things and comes back, or probably doesn't come back, whatever. There's a principle to it. Practically, that might not be the same thing as those days, but then the principles still lie around.
Okay, thank you.
Just one question.
Sure.
Do you suggest, from Chanakya's Niti, if something we can, some modification we can do in today's existing education system for kids? Because nowadays they haven't seen the hardship which actually 1 or 2 generations before people saw, and the kind of luxury and other things we are getting, their orientation and other things is more materialistic, more more about self-achievement and other things. Plus, additionally, their screen time and exposure is completely different. So do you think that we can control them, or we can do some modification in our education system or something like that?
Yeah. So two things come out here. Number one, hardship and luxuries is a very relevant term. What our parents did in terms of hardship, they felt that we are not taking any hardship in life, and now we feel that our kids are not taking any hardship. So it's a very relative term which will change generation to generation, and everyone will say कि आप लोगों ने क्या सोचा, हमारी जिंदगी तो कैसी थी, It's like you go to a college and this senior batch says, हमारा batch वो ऐसा था, So that hardship, it's a very relevant term in that context. When it comes to education, Chanakya was very clear in those terms, and SDA Bocconi, being an Italian organization, would also somewhere vouch for this. Education and healthcare, these are two things which the state should take care of completely, right? In fact, in today's time, we have another mad race. My child is going to IB, the other child is going to CBSE, the third child is going to ICSC, and the state board of low caste, lower caste state board. Municipal, so that's the kind of thing which we do. And I would say it's just madness, it's just stupidity which is going on. Right? Probably look at the best of the brains, best of the scientists, or probably the richest of the people also, if you want to put it in money terms, never went to best of the colleges simply, not required. But now hoga to wo street lamp ke niche bhi baith ke padhta hai, right? So it's more about what value system we give to the next generation, right? So rather than saying ye nahi karna hai, wo nahi karna hai, aisa nahi karna hai, let's tell them kya karna hai, right? So let's, instead of telling your kids what not to do, focus on telling them what to do, right? There's a very nice example to this. Two kids were playing, they were on the tree. They climbed the tree, and now the tree bark was about to break, and both kids had their parents standing underneath. So one father said, "Girna mat," and the other father said, "Jor se pakad." Right? Girna mat or jor se pakad, both meant the same thing somewhere, that don't fall and probably hold problem. But when the father said girna mat, wo gir gaya. क्या नहीं करना है वो बोला, right? मत कर, लेकिन हुआ. Other father said, पकड़ के रखना बराबर से, so that child kept holding. So the point of view which I would say comes from Arthashastra point of view here is, education, first of all, should be given free of cost, which is far, far away from reality, I would say. Yes, in India, but we should somewhere start thinking in that direction. You go to Germany, I mean, I'd love that country for that matter. You want to study anything, everything, free of cost. In fact, I have friends in Sweden. I just did an interview with them day before yesterday. if your child wants to study your mother tongue, so if I'm a Gujarati, I'm staying in Sweden, right? And if my child, in fact, it is compulsory for the child to study the mother tongue. So they will find a teacher to teach you Gujarati, right? And if they don't find you, and if the parents are homeschooling, the parents get paid for teaching the child the mother tongue, right? So education and healthcare, yes, we are not yet that prosperous country, but then I would say we should slowly start thinking with the new education policy and all that now in place, that education somewhere should be state sponsored, not state controlled, but state sponsored. State controlled education kabhi nahi hona chahiye. Chanakya was never in favor. Jo padhna hai padho. So that should not be stopped. The state should not decide what to study. So I would say that's a good input.
My question is that Chanakya Sutra tells about that how to behave or how to behave a king, or how what to do by a king or a leader. But in current scenario of political leader, so now in their language, the success of the leadership, or that they think themselves first, then the people. In the majority of the politician of Indian politician. So how this kind of behavior is described on Chanakya Sutra, or how to work on that?
As I said, the sutra which Chanakya has used for the attitude of the leader is Praja Sukhe Sukham Raja, Praja Namta Hite Hitam. The leader has to work and think in the benefit of the people only. Right? What he further says, Natna Priyam Hitam Raja, Natna Priyam Hitam Raja, Praja Namta Hite Hitam. That is what he thinks is beneficial to him is not beneficial to him. Right? What is beneficial to the people is only thing which is going to be beneficial to the king as well. Someone can get a chair by whatever methods. Pehchan se, bribe se, something or the other, sliming here and there, But if you are not capable, the chair will not keep you. Understand this. You can get the chair in whatever means you want. But if you are not capable, the chair will not let you be there. So let people do whatever they want to. And because I work with politicians and I work on a few political campaigns and things like that, in general, we have a society, we have this kind of I say before telling anything to any of the political leaders, please become a corporator first. MLA, MP, and minister, and prime minister, and chief minister, and all that, very far away. First, become a municipal corporator. Try and see the kind of life this people in public life live, and then point fingers at someone else. I met Nitin Gadkari, and he says, "मेरे घर में दिन की 1200 चाय बनती है." कितनी चाय बनती है दिन में घर पे? 1200 tea are made every single day in his house because there's so many people coming to meet him. मेरा ये काम बाकी, मेरा वो काम, मेरे बच्चे का एडमिशन, मेरा इसका तबीयत खराब है, ये खराब है, वो खराब है, ऐसा वैसा. So, or probably I would say, as a leadership, as a management institute, make a visit to Delhi and spend some time with all these political leaders and see the kind of lifestyle they live. It's easier said than done. I would put it in that context. And as far as administration is concerned, so when it comes to IAS, IPS officers, the administrative people, I would say we corporates are nowhere even close to what they manage. Try and spend time in a deputy commissioner or commissioner's office and see the quantum and the size of work that they do. We are nowhere even at corporates close to what they manage. So it's better to experience, put ourselves in their shoes first before looking at these people. Because I somewhere feel I have seen those people, I've worked with those people. It's heads off to them, the commendable job they do there. So I look at it differently in that reference.
You said the 3 sutra for leadership. So any 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 sutra for a good human being or for the public?
3 things.
Yeah.
Okay. Clarity of mind. Whatever you're thinking, you should have clarity. Right? Purity in your heart. Clarity of mind, purity in your heart, and dedication to your purpose. If you do those 3 things, right? And probably if you have read Napoleon Hill, he uses the word faith. Think and Grow Rich. I mean, Napoleon Hill. I'm sure most of you would have read that book. So he used the word faith. These three things put in: clarity in your mind. First of all, what am I doing? So I started with that, is this beneficial to me? What is my purpose? What I want to achieve? So first you should have clarity in your mind. Second thing is purity in your heart. Don't do with a little bit of bad intentions. Purity in your heart. And dedication to the purpose. Whatever you're doing, you dedicate yourself to that. You'll achieve whatever you have to achieve in life. So I don't think anything can, and I've also learned this by reading and studying and experiencing that, yahi hota hai, jahan pe half-heartedly kaam kar nahi hota hai. So try doing these three things, and I feel will help somewhere.
Just one extended question.
Yes, sir.
You were telling us something about Sukhkari and Hitkari. So like recently the farm laws were passed, and I think we also think that it was Hitkari for all the public, but it wasn't a Sukhkari thing, and that's why they resisted. So in the current elected system, means when the public is electing the Raja, so will that Chanakya Niti works the way it worked earlier?
What does the democratic system say? Democratic system say for the people, by the people, and of the people. Right? For the people, by the people, and of the people. Again, let's go back to the same sutra. I don't know why we are referring to the same one today. Praja sukhe sukham raja. Right? So in the benefit of the people lies the benefit of the king. Has to the Vetan Bhogi Sevak. He's a salaried employee of the people. Right? For the people, by the people, of the people. I think we are somewhere on the same line. So, and that is why we say India was mother of democracy. We say United States is the oldest modern day democracy. But if you study Rajya, Ganarajya, Swarajya, what are these different models in terms of governance models in India? Swarajya is self-governed thing. So we are talking more of the socialist thing, or probably even to like a communist thing where self-governed, everyone governs, everyone is living. So Chanakya also called something called the Praja Dharma. Raj Dharma, Raja ka dharma to hai, lekin praja ka bhi dharma hai. So when we talk of rights, this is my right as a citizen. So has someone come and first told us, are you following your duties that you're asking for your rights? So Chanakya talks about praja dharma also. So responsibilities and duties of the citizen. Our constitution should start. In fact, our founding fathers somewhere assume that we all are so cultured and we will follow our duties, and that is why the rights has to be given. But we all should follow the duties also. Are we following citizen duties? Right. So Praja Dharma is also something in today's context. I would say that is missing in the whole construct. Are we been? Why is only 60% people voting in UP? Where are the rest 40%? Are we all holidaying? Isn't it my moral responsibility as a person to go and vote? We call it Mata Dana. Okay, it is Dana. We are saying it is something which I'm giving as a Dan now there. Why is it not? Are we even made responsible, or are we ourselves taking the responsibility as a citizen that I will follow certain things in my life which is for the benefit of the country or for the society? Let's first focus on that. Rest all will fall in place.
Okay, we are pretty deep into the evening. I just wanted to check once again from those who are attending it online. Does anyone have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
So since you were mentioning the clarity of purpose in life, right? We see a lot of people having short-term purposes which they don't think through. So what would be your advice on how would, or there are people who do not even know their purpose, right? And that is the reason they feel that they don't know where this life is heading. So what is your take on that, or what would you like to add?
Sure. This purpose thing keeps coming up again, and a lot of people say, how do I find my purpose in life? I would say, don't find your purpose. It will come to you if you're doing things right. Right? Chanakya uses something called as Swa Dharma. Right? Swa Dharma means self Dharma, and our whole Indian philosophy or culture is based upon following the Swa Dharma. Everyone is supposed to follow their Swa Dharma. Now, what is Swa Dharma? Let's understand this. As a man, right, if I'm talking to my father, I'm supposed to follow something called as Putra Dharma, a way the son is supposed to behave with his father. So Putra Dharma, right? If I'm talking to my son, I'm following something called as Pitru Dharma, right? If I'm talking to my wife, I'm following Pati Dharma, right? In a similar manner, when the king is in the courtroom, he's sitting on that chair, all right, he has to follow Raja Dharma. right? Now he cannot go to his bedroom and tell his wife, "Na main Raja hoon." He'll say, "Main bhi Rani hoon, chal." So right. So Swa Dharma is about following that particular duty right at that particular point of time. Now, what is my purpose? Your purpose should be to follow what you're doing at that particular time, right in that particular context. If we start following our Swa Dharmas, and if someone is not well at home, I cannot say, "Meko naukri pe jana hai, I have to go to a job." You to follow your Swa Dharma and probably take care of someone who is not well at home. So your Swa Dharma at times says, give priority to your duty of being a daughter or a wife or a mother in that particular context, and not be your dharma as an employee out there. So that Swa Dharma follow is if we start doing. So this conflict of what am I doing and why am I doing, what is my purpose that I should do or not, all that comes out. Another thing in terms of career path is when people usually ask this question about purpose of life. How do I find what I'm good at and things like that. Chanakya somewhere puts in 2-3 things in this context. One is not going by the modern day understanding, but the actual understanding in those days, which was more of the Varna system. Right? Varna system used to be like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Whatever is the environment which you have got is putting in some kind of conditioning into you. So if I'm a doctor's son, my parents are doctor. If I'm born in a doctor's family, even on the dining table, they will talk about this medicine, this diagnosis, that diagnosis, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Gujaratis are good at stock market because ghar pe bhi khane pe table pe we talk about kaun sa kharida, kaun sa, which is a good stock doing well and things like that. So that environment which you get, all right, brings up certain qualities in you. So keep an idea on that. If I am here and if I want to do something completely out of the box, at times it might not be easy. You can do it. It is nothing wrong. You can change your varna. In fact, Chandragupta Maurya was Dasi Putra, right? He was Shudra who was made the king. So Chanakya is very clear, but you can keep changing your varnas according to it. Varna is basically what act you are doing. If you're doing something with the mind, then it's Brahmanical. So you have to have certain kind of lifestyle, eat certain kind of food, live in certain manner, so that your mind is focused in it. If you are doing something Kshatriya with your physical thing, right, then you have to you're allowed to eat non-veg and probably do certain kind of activities so that it keeps you fit and fine to use that fighting spirit and things like that. If you're a Shudra, you do businessman, sitting in the same place throughout the day, in the business, in the shop, not doing much of the things, then certain diet, certain lifestyle has to be followed. And if you're Vaishya, if you're labor work, if you're doing some kind of laborious activities which you're doing, then there's certain kind of lifestyle which is prescribed in that thing. Follow this somewhere more or less in terms of what you're doing in your lifestyle. That will put you in alignment with your purpose. And another thing which Chanakya focuses upon is astrology. Now, astrology, not the predictive astrology. I'm not talking of कि मेरा future क्या है, Raj Yog है कि नहीं, पैसा आने वाला है कि नहीं. Astrology from the point of view of what are your qualities as an individual. So when we have the second birth, and when I say second birth, is the first birth happens in the womb of the mother. The second birth is when we come out of the protective environment, protective layer of the mother's uterus, and we come out in the world, the external energies start affecting us. And that's where you find out what are the stars at that point of time, and then figure out what your chart is, the birth chart is, right? So based upon that, there are certain qualities which are coming into you because of the energies which fall upon you. So try and align that with your, so you go to an astrologer and do your character analysis, not your predictive analysis, or character analysis. They will tell you, be in some kind of business which is related to metal, or they say for me, they said be in any kind of industry which is related to teaching, coaching, training, mentoring, so consulting. So that is the kind of profile which comes up. So based upon what your astrological birth chart is, there are certain things which is that also can help you in terms of finding your purpose.
So a bit of a metaphysics coming into it.
Yeah.
I think we will have to get into the end stage now. Shreyan's held.
Professor, shall I last question?
Yeah, go ahead. After
Okay.
he has, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Pranav. So this side Adesh. My question is just linked to the qualities as you mentioned for to be a good leader. The second, which is calm and the peace mind, right? So live in present, but being a leader, how can you live in a present? Because you have to have a sort of, let's say, live in the past also to have a comparison with respect to the result what you're going to have in future, right? So how can you keep your mind peace and live in present just as with respect to like Chanakya Niti or like the Chanakya Sutra?
Thinking of the past and thinking of the future is different from living in the past and living in the future. All right. I'm thinking, in fact, Chanakya says if when the king takes over, he's supposed to study accounts for 100 years in the past. जैसे हमारे यहाँ 7 साल compliance बोलते हैं, 100 years का कौन रखता है? But Chanakya says study 100 years. In fact, I will tell you one beautiful example of this. In Surat, there was a railway bridge which was built by Britishers in those days. It completed 100 years. The Surat Municipal Corporation got a letter coming in from England, which said that this thing needs to be dismantled, decommissioned. Because according to our records, it says 100 years ho gaya, iska life khatam ho gaya, you need to decommission this. Obviously, the corporation took account of that, and then they rebuilt the whole thing. Now the new bridge is up there. But the point which is coming up is that record of 100 years is there. Right, so record keeping is to be important, and so past 100 साल का record पढ़ना है. That doesn't mean I'm living in those past 100 years, right? In fact, I'm studying those 100 years. I'm getting an experience of what happened in those 100 years. So what he would have meant by studying 100 years record is if drought has come, if flood has come, if something has gone wrong, how did the government behave? How did things happen at that point of time? I can probably reproduce that and probably understand from that point of view and take it ahead from there. Right, so we have something called as institutional history and record keeping as one of the topics which we discuss. So living in the past is different, and studying the past is different. So as leaders, we do, in fact, leaders have to work in the future, right? Leaders have to think about the at least 2 to 3 quarters ahead from now in terms of where they are, not in terms of what is happening today. But living is different and thinking is different. So try and keep this different.
But like, okay, so thinking and like having a forecast for, let's say, like whatever Q2, Q3, or like, so, but that is itself, like we all, like I'm sure, like we are living in a world where we have to think and act accordingly, because every one of us is so, like, because we don't have a work-life balance, I would say, as of today. So that itself cannot give you a peace in mind, right? So you cannot be like peace. So I am just asking how to get through that.
So try a bit of meditation or some kind of an activity throughout the day, at least half an hour if you can. Sit quietly with your mind, with the eyes closed, with yourself, thinking about nothing. Right? Try spending time thinking about nothing, which will give you at least a cool and calm, composed mind, I would say, if you can practice that. I'm not talking of going into yogic thing and practicing yoga and things like that and everything. What you are saying is we do predictions. Yes, we do predictions. It is important to do predictions. In fact, the reason why it is important to study the past, and if I'm talking of something which was 2,400 years back, Arthashastra and Chanakya happened 2,400 years back, is like looking into the rear mirror of the car. You know, I look at the rear mirror, see how things happened so far, and then I establish the future in terms of seeing and envisioning in terms of how will things happen in future. So it's important to study the past and project the future and act accordingly. But when I said when you're living in the past and living in the future, you are more or less, you feel that you're already there, or you feel that you already were there in terms of past and future. So that is what is living in the past and future. I don't know if I've been able to answer you right.
Okay, Shreyans, the last one.
Thank you, sir. Pranav, most of us are managers who are leading either a mid-size or a large teams here. So in our teams, how do we see the potential and how do we nurture them to become a leader, the way Chanakya did for Chandragupta Maurya? So what are those qualities that we should look in our team members so that they grow and we also grow along with them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called Amatya Utpatti. Amatya is deputy, Utpatti selection. So Chanakya has dedicated chapters on how to select the second in command. Number one, understand, according to Arthashastra, there is always number 1 and number 2. There's no number 3. Right? The number 2 will have its own number 2. Right? So Ashtapradhana Mandala, which was there for Shivaji, or Navratnas for Akbar. Those are the reportees who come to you. So these are the only people whom you need to first of all have. So your selection, don't go and let that person grow leadership qualities in that person and then let him have its own second line, which is there. So this is number 1, which is there. Selecting, there's a lot of qualities which Chanakya has prescribed. It's a list of qualities which it comes in. You cannot have all. In fact, Chanakya also goes into some secret testing of the character, testing in terms of how honest is in terms of money matters, especially at senior level. In fact, I was asked in one of the conferences and I said, Chanakya focused upon this. You select someone, best qualifications, best experience, and then there's some kind of a sexual harassment case comes against him, right? So Chanakya, in fact, tests the person in that also before. So he lays a honey trap and checks the person before selecting him also. So there's certain selection procedures which Chanakya has spoken about when selecting your second in command. But then, as I said, a leader only becomes a greater leader by creating more leaders. So if you're selecting someone, look at the leadership qualities in that person and try and see if they're better than you. So I would like to have someone working for me who's better than me, and I should not have that insecurity in terms of wo mere se aage nikal gaya to wo aage nikal gaya to aap usse bhi aage hi honge because you are anyways there. So that goes as a byproduct out there. So look for those qualities which you think are better than you in that person and try and keep those persons.
Wonderful. I think we'll have to draw it to a close now. I'm sure had a little time been given, you would have possibly had more questions to have, but then.
No, I'll share my details. If you can share my details with them and anyone wants to interact, please, most welcome.
Right. So you already have his background information is already there in Blackboard.
Great.
So wonderful, Pranav. I think this makes my day. You know, I have been toying with it for a long time, and of course, it would have been lovely to have everybody here in the class, but then unfortunately, times are not very conducive to that kind of presence here physically. But then I'm sure those who attended it online, they also have as much excitement as those who are inside the class. Thank you very much for your attention. And as I have said before, I know it's a good practice. As a matter of fact, I'm sure there must be a Chanakya Niti somewhere that write down what has been discussed. If you do that, it will stay with you, and you connect your mind with your action by writing it down. And as I've said before, that anyone sending your brief to me can actually be the social media brief that I want to come in with. Mid of next week, we'll have the LinkedIn post coming from there. So please help me out with that. Write down your own synopsis, send it across to me. Madhuri, do I hand it over to you now for saying thank you to Mr. Patel? And
by the time she comes, I would like to just add, Chanakya he religiously believed in documentation. If Arthashastra was not written 2,400 years back, today we wouldn't have this knowledge to read or study it at all, right? So documentation is very, very, very important. Everyone should write about their own story as well. Your life story. Imagine if you get a book which your grandfather had written about how they lived their life and what all they did in life. Will it have any price to it? I mean, how much would you pay for it? I would pay anything, So keep documenting. Kaun padega is not your problem. Koi nahi padega, don't worry, but document it. Maybe someone will pick it up and it might become a bestseller book someday. So keep writing, keep documenting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pranav Patel. It has been a great pleasure having you here. And I'm sure all the students have gained a lot of knowledge. And it's been wonderful having you here. Thank you so much.